We're making pizza on the grill today. And to do it, I'm starting with a proofing yeast and making a first sponge. Now, I'm not using ordinary water for this. I'm using potato water, the water that you've used to boil for mashed potatoes. Save that water and then make a sponge like I'm doing today. So here we have 3/4 of a cup of warm potato water, and I only want that water to be about 110 to 115 degrees. Use an instant read thermometer to measure the temperature of the water. Then you'll never kill the yeast. Now that the yeast is in there, and that's about 1/2 teaspoon, I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of unbleached flour. It will look like this. Now you see how we have a lot of bubbles over the top, and it looks very spongy. And that's where the name comes from, that it looks like a sponge and it has nearly tripled in volume. So now we're going to add this to more liquid ingredients. Here I have additional potato water. So I'm going to add another 1/2 teaspoon of yeast to about 1 1/4 cups of warm water and allow that to dissolve. This goes into a mixer. Pour it right in, and then you want to add your sponge to this. So here's my sponge, and you see how light that is. Look at how that just goes in. And this is going to give a wonderful texture and taste to your pizza. So get all that sponge in. You can actually make this the day before if you wanted to, and let it come to room temperature the next day before you use it. Now that that's in, we want to start mixing in the sponge into the water. And in addition to what we already have in here for flour, that 3/4 of a cup, we need about 3 1/2 to 4 cups of additional flour. All right, I'm going to let that go now for a few minutes so I can talk to you about some other things. So now that we have our marinade for our vegetables, let me talk to you about what else is going to go on that pizza. Because on top of that dough, I'm going to have things like, olives and fresh mozzarella cheese and these sun-dried tomatoes. These are tomatoes that I put up in my garden last year. These are plum tomatoes, you see, and I dried them and then I put them in olive oil, and they'll stay like this forever. Then I took some of the tomatoes out. These are about 20 sun-dried tomatoes. Put them in a food processor and just pureed them. And this is going to be the tomato sauce for the top of my pizza. Tommy is going to love this. Let's go back over here and see what's happening. Oh yes. Now we definitely have to add more flour because you can see that there's no way I'm going to be able to knead that. So in goes a little bit more flour. And now I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to this. The olive oil gives this a really nice flavor. So I'm going to add a little bit of that and some sea salt. I'm just going to eyeball this. I want about a teaspoon or so. There's my olive oil. And now here's my coarse salt. I like to use coarse salt in bread. So I think the dough really absorbs that salt and disperses it beautifully in the dough. So now I'm going to turn this up a little higher until I feel that I can see that that is forming a ball of dough that will leave the sides of the pan. And I think you can see I still need to add a little bit more flour. So let me add just a little. I may need all of it. And turn this back on. It's almost where I want it. And you see, I have a nice pile of dough that I don't even have to add any flour to. And just because I've practiced with dough so much, I knew that that was the right consistency. Now, that needs to rise. So, we want to put it in a bowl that we've sprayed, either with a little olive oil spray or with some olive oil itself. And then cover that bowl up tightly. You want this to rise until it doubles in volume. Look at how nice this is. It just rolls. so
you know,
nicely.
my grandmother
off the
taught me
hand.
how to do this with your fingers. You have to get these olives. These are oil cured, right?
Right. We don't want
Very,
canned
very
olives,
strong.
Tommy.
No,
Canned
no.
olives are not in.
No California canned
Okay,
olives.
I'm going to
for
cut this up now and just use one little
right.
piece at a time. I think grilled pizza is great.
Now, you know,
for a
I've never
picnic.
had grilled pizza. That's why I'm really excited about this.
This is the tomato pesto that I made.
Right. Oh, look at that.
See, and you don't want a lot of that, but you want enough
It's
so
going to be
that
very pungent, isn't it?
very
very
pungent.
flavorful.
Yes. Now, I'm probably going to need, maybe about a half a cup of those olives. You just spread this around, and I didn't put any oil on the dough itself.
No, I noticed that, yeah.
Because I've got enough oil in the tomatoes, but the idea is you don't want a lot of this. You want, you know, just enough to give it a nice flavor. Okay, all right, and then I just want
push
to
them down a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. Now I want to put this cheese over the top. I like to be really generous with this cheese. This is not like pasteurized mozzarella. This is the fresh cow's milk mozzarella. And this is another reason for...
Is that going to melt?
Yeah, it's going to melt just fine. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. And I leave it in big pieces like this, you know, because I just like to see large chunks of it all over. Okay, I need a clean towel
Clean towel.
to cover this. Start praying.
Okay. Hey! Oh, Marianne, look